So this is just an estimated timeline to get to that picture. So the design completion, I've shown you the high-level design. There's a lot of low-level design going on. We expect by the end of the quarter that will be finished. And they have vendor meetings set up for the 16th and 17th of June. So that's when they'll be talking to Cisco and to Juniper. There will be meetings with faculty because we want to be sure that we're coming up with something that they can use. We're pretty sure that's the case, but we want to be sure. We want to have good discussions with them. The ordering and delivery of the equipment, it's going to take a while, but usually you get 90-day delivery on stuff that's on the current price list. They're starting in first 2 weeks of June, well, I guess it started yesterday, trying to define where those 4 core routers go. We may have to pull some extra cable between them to get the redundant links, but I've been told that the way that our conduits and our tunnels are set up, that's straightforward. We won't have to come in here with a backhoe and start digging up the campus. The fiber installation will be done as we need to connect things up, as opposed to doing one big grand installation of fiber and then installing the equipment. And we expect by the 3rd of April of 2017, so essentially by the end of winter quarter of the coming academic year, that the core routers and the research switch installation should be complete. Okay, so that's an estimated timeline, but try to be make reasonable assumptions. So we think that should be feasible. So any questions on that before I turn it back over to Chris?
Okay. And no, Ms. Harvey. Nope. Okay. Next, I'd like to talk about leveraging. Oh, this is Harvey. Harvey, if you can give us an update on your area.
Sure. Good morning. My name is Harvey. I'm a consultant working with IS. And in over a 4-week period in April and May, I spoke with 113 people on campus about the opportunities and challenges of IS and IT consolidation. I spoke with all of the deans, with many of the vice presidents. I spoke with people at all levels within IS. I spoke with all of the IT directors. I spoke with people in the IT organizations. I spoke with administrative assistants. I had focus groups and spoke with faculty both in their instructional roles and their research roles. And all of those interviews really gave me a good sense of what the challenges and the issues and the opportunities are. Those interviews are still ongoing. I have a few to pick up over the next week or two. We also conducted a survey. As you know, IT encompasses a lot of different kinds of activities. There's applications and network and web and instructional technology and research technology and digital humanities and servers and DBAs. And so if you're going to say we want to think about consolidating information technology consultant to, it really helps to know what that ITC2 does. So we've done a survey of all of the IT people on campus, asking them what they do, how they allocate their time, so that when we make decisions and I make recommendations and the university makes decisions about how to consolidate, we really have a good basis on which to make an assessment. So I brought in a template of an activity dictionary. I had a wonderful team to help to advise me on that. We ran it past all of the leaders in IS. We ran it past the IT directors of the distributed units. We did a beta test with the IT directors, and then about 2 or 3 weeks ago, we launched a survey. We were hoping to wrap it up last Friday, but there's still a few stragglers out there that we're hoping to round up, so we're going to declare victory on Friday, and that's when I'll begin the analysis. And so things are moving forward, and I don't want to get into some of how things are progressing or what I'm going to be recommending, but I will say that there is hope. And there's really a good opportunity here to do things in a much better and more balanced way.
Thank you. Next, we'll talk a little bit about our short-term assessments when we were talking about leveraging resources. The key here, obviously, is our data centers, which we opened up Allen Hall just yesterday. Our focus is obviously on research, which is where the HPC is located, and also to adhere to any compliance. I had listed NIST 800-171 that originally we thought would come out with over 120 different regulations for some of our grants. They lowered that qualification down to only 15 that we'll have to comply for, but that will expand over time, and it also will expand to other grants. Right now, only the Department of Defense has given us an indication that on December 17, 2017, that they'll start enforcing these. But just to let you know, Allen Hall, once they start expanding that, will answer a number of those security as well as a two-factor and some other things that IS Security is doing. So we're already advanced looking at what we'll have to do once they start expanding from 15 to the over, I think it was over 120 of those particular line items. Enterprise software, this is an area that we're also looking at. I had the IT Executive Committee, which is made up of the 5, look at a list prepared by our office and IS. We have a number of software that is all around the campus. It's sponsored by some colleges. Sometimes it's sponsored by an academic or non-academic unit. Sometimes it's sponsored by IS. And it's sometimes funded by passing the hat, as we'll call it, meaning who has room in their budget to sponsor it. What we've done here is we've accumulated all this, categorized it, and now the IT directors, they should be done by Friday, telling us what they believe is the enterprise software, mainly defined as something that's used by more than one unit and financed by more than one unit, and then we'll kind of decide where in the heck those should be lying, and then get some permanent funding, and then also look for things that should be consolidated. Do we have too many, such as we have, I think it's 5 flavors of video conferencing. We have 12 different flavors of statistical. You know, do we need all those different flavors? Can we actually get rid of some of them? So we're going through that particular process now. We are looking at purchasing. That's taking a little bit more time just because there's a lot out there, Dell, Apple, CDW, and a lot of our colleges have already gone through and made suggestions on exactly what purchases should be made so we can make some standardization. Standardization is probably our key there. It's not so much volume, but just getting standardization and getting away from as much as we do unique buys. And then also we're looking at the email and calendaring system. That's something that will be important for us, but that's pending the ending of Joe's evaluation so that we know we have enough funds to fix our infrastructure before we advance to the next topic. And help desk. We are working on that currently. We're relocating it. We should be relocated during the summer. It'll be very convenient for students. And once we get that done, we'll be buying a new ticketing system. And once again, that will be an enterprise system. Right now we have a homegrown one that doesn't really consolidate the tickets and really push them out to everybody. You have to fill out multiple tickets. There's not a good way to manage our help desk. So once again, we're bringing in an enterprise solution. We believe that should be out for purchase sometime during the summer so that we can get it here by the fall and install it sometime during the fall. Campus engagement, as I mentioned at the very beginning, is extremely important to us. Just to let you know, we have also posted a website on exactly what we're doing on a regular basis so everybody on campus can see what we're doing so that we don't have to continually go out and have individual meetings so we get everybody caught up. We'll continue with the individual meetings, but the website will allow everybody just to look up and see where we are at any point in time. Also, being able to be participatory on campus, just because I'm brand new, I'm still jumped into all the places the CIO should be. That includes everything internally, includes everything externally, internet too. Matter of fact, I'll be down next Monday meeting with the other CIOs. I've already met with them twice, so I'm actively engaged with them. So we continue to push that forward so we make sure that our voices are heard with the other universities and around the community so that we don't lose traction there because we are a very valuable piece to the IT community. Joe will go into his HPC here.
Okay, so just to provide the context for this, November was when Brad Shelton asked me to lead a team to specify, acquire, and stand up a new high-performance computing facility. What was driving that was that the current HPC cluster, Axis, we were not going to be able to purchase support for Axis after July 1st of this year. So we jumped onto it. It's a huge task to accomplish in that short a period of time. There's been a little bit of slippage, but it's been for the right reasons. So what I've shown you here is essentially the timeline of the actual bidding process and what's going to happen going forward. We received bids from 6 vendors, and they're listed there: Cray, Dell, HP, IBM, Lenovo, and SGI. The first round, we eliminated IBM. Didn't want to, but essentially software that our researchers are currently using on Axis didn't run on the power processor that is the core of their bid, so there was no point considering them any further. And SGI, we were surprised SGI bid because we didn't think they even existed anymore, or let alone could have a competitive bid, and they were uncompetitive. And then you can see that with further consideration, we removed Lenovo from consideration because there were uncertain support and partnership opportunities there. And so on the 12th of May, we solicited additional information from HP and Cray because the initial bid process we had said, we want to spend $2 million. Tell me what you can do for us in a medium-sized high-performance computer cluster with $2 million. And so as you might expect, that gives a lot of degrees of freedom to each of the bidders. So we were comparing apples with grapefruit with pineapples. So we thought that the Dell bid had kind of the right mix of stuff. So we then solicited from HP and Cray, well, if we wanted you to do this with the really big nodes and this with the basic nodes and this with the GPU nodes, what would it cost us? Amazingly, they came back and said, it'll cost you no more, and here's how we'll do it. Okay. And then the team had to make a final decision between Cray and Dell and HP. So it's not just the actual bid for the hardware that they will provide. We had to look at intangibles like future partnership opportunities and things like that. But in the end, we've decided to go with Dell. They actually have a very big presence in the HPC community, and they provided us with the very best value for money. I should just tell you that, under my insistence, we are going with tried and true technology because we're supposed to stand up a facility that will run 24/7 and provide service. We're not trying to do this as a research exercise on HPC construction. So if you are au fait with stuff that's just around the corner coming from Intel, et cetera, you'll see we haven't asked for that. We're going with stuff that we know we'll be able to stand up and it will run. Because we're going to keep maintaining this as we go forward. So the choice is Dell. In fact, I think Dell is here today talking to some of my colleagues. We're trying to hammer out some more additional details about the exact acquisition. And basically by the 10th of June, we hope to complete the statement of work and finalize the contract obligations. This is all being purchased through a statewide contract. Through CDWG, so we didn't have to do a request for quote and do the whole process because we had the statewide contract available. The equipment is expected to be delivered. You expect a 90-day delivery, so if we order it the 10th of June, we expect it by the 10th of September. We'd hoped to have it about a month earlier, but to do due diligence and do the correct thing on the acquisition, it's slipped a month. And we think it'll take about a month to configure, test, and commission the system. Now, this is a pretty aggressive schedule still, but what has happened in the interim is that HP has agreed to continue to provide us with a support contract for the current system. And so, as you'll see on the next slide, if you just take it forward, we are in the process of just finalizing a support contract with HP for Axis. That's the, sixth line down there. Oh, sorry, I should change my slide too. Sorry. Okay, so now in terms of just governance and personnel, the director position was posted on 12th of May. We already have a couple of applications, and we will start to consider those applications soon because we expect the new director to start about mid-July. A draft governance and business model document was delivered to the rest of the task force. Bill Cresco and I put something together. The key thing here is that we've stated what are a set of basic principles that we think should cover however this facility is governed. Because we're kind of getting into unknown territory here for the University of Oregon about exactly how heavily it will be used. We want it to be used completely. We would like it to be crunching data all the time. If you care about such numbers, this machine that we're going to be installing will it is rated at a quarter of a petaflop per second. Now, the very biggest systems are of the order of 100 petaflops, all right? So we're not big, all right? But we feel this is a basic system that will allow us to get started, and then hopefully we grow it as all of the researchers flock to use this system to process all of their big data and run big simulations of physical systems or economic systems or whatever they do simulations for. So we have another couple of meetings. We meet every Thursday at 2 o'clock. So this afternoon and next Thursday, we're going to be finalizing this governance and business model document, and that's a recommendation that goes to Brad. And then he decides whether we got it right or we have to go back to the drawing board. But we've been in consultation with Brad as we're going along, so we don't think it'll be the latter. As I say, estimated start date mid-July. Then hopefully by the end of August or early September, the Faculty Advisory Committee is populated because this is a core facility. So the Faculty Advisory Committee actually is the big boss in terms of how this system should be run, et cetera. And then hopefully on the 10th of October or very soon thereafter, it will be open for business. Now we expect there to be a slow transition because if you've spent a lot of time and you already have your code running on Axis and Axis is supported, you may wait, the PI may wait until Thanksgiving break or maybe Christmas break to actually do the work to transport their code over and test it. All right? It's perfectly understandable because they're usually teaching and doing a few other things as well. So that's pretty much where we're at in terms of the HPC. It's a moderately sized HPC. It's certainly big enough for the current load on Axis, we think, but people queue up. I mean, essentially you put jobs in, and if all the processors are busy, then you'll wait till those processors aren't busy. We've devised a tariff system for people to join this club. I think you may remember we talked about this running as a modified health club. You pay so much a year to get so much processing resource and so much parallel store resource. But if you really need a lot more resource, you can buy another fat node, one of the really big nodes, and you can put it in, and then you're given exclusive access to that whenever you want it. But when you're not using it, other people get to use it. So it's kind of like buying your own treadmill at your health club. And as soon as you show up, whoever's on it has to get off. Right? So, we've structured the tariff so that we're encouraging people to use it. So the tariffs, the membership fees go up linearly, but the amount of processing power you get to access goes up exponentially. So we're hoping that that's going to draw people in. And also one part of the job description for the director is significant outreach activities, trying to go and talk to other people in other disciplines that might be able to use this, so that we start to get the social scientists and the humanities and the business community and College of Education and College of Law or College of Journalism, be able to help them understand how they might be able to use this facility, because it's for the whole university. So.
And capacity can be added in a modularized
Oh,
way.
yes. This is designed so that we could grow it up to 100 petaflops if we wanted to. We'd have to see if Allen Hall is big enough. That would be the only limiting factor, how much rack space we can get.
Okay. Are you ready for a few questions, or do you want to go on for?
Well, do you want questions on that now, or?
Yeah, let's see if there are questions on the issue of the capacity and at least I would be interested, well, let's do that first. Are there any questions thus far?
I'm just trying to get my hands around the need and the desire for this, and I don't know how to ask the question, or maybe it's about the queue, or help us understand sort of what this will unleash on campus and how many departments or people are queued up in excitement for this.
Well, at the moment, we have the current cluster Axis, which is running full tilt all the time, all right? So we expect, this is actually bigger capacity than Axis, so that will mean people will be queued up less long. The queues will be shorter. in the 21st century, scientific research used to be, there was theory and there was experiment. And you tried to match the two, right? And hopefully the experiments would help the theorists get the theory right. The theories would tell the experimenters what to go look for. Well, with the advent of supercomputers, and our high-performance computing facility is a moderately sized supercomputer, you also have a third tier now, which is simulation. We can actually come up with simulation models that approximate what we think we should see. So there's a third piece of it. For a premier AAU Tier 1 research university, you need these kinds of facilities, which was what motivated the purchase of Axis 6-7 years ago as it is. So it's also the case that we've experienced problems trying to land people into these cluster hires, because we're going after really top-notch people that are already established, and they take a look at what's our supercomputing capacity versus what they currently have in their home institution. And we find, and at the moment, we're kind of lacking. So that is keeping us from being able to attract those people. There may be other reasons, I don't, but that is at least one reason that is, significant. So the thing was that, if we want to be a major research university, we need one of these. We really can't wait because of the fact that we thought we weren't going to be able to get support, and the kind of support we're getting from HP for Access is, best effort, because it's all pretty old equipment. So we're building this sustainable level with funds coming from the university. It's functional, but it could be much better. It could be much higher capacity. So in essence, and people usually think of this as something only scientists use. But in fact, everybody's got large data problems. Social scientists in the humanities. Somebody that wants to look for specific patterns in Shakespeare's corpora, all right? Bottom line is, it's needed to be a good researcher. And so we're trying to provide this core facility that's going to let them do it. And it's extensible because there's no fundamental limit other than rack space in Allen Hall.
Sure, Ann?
To expand on Connie's question, maybe a bit, or maybe take it askew, I don't know, but thank you for that answer. But I'm wondering if we have any clarity about how much, in other words, do you need the broader community outside the top AAU scientists to use this high performing system for it to be sustainable?
Well, at the moment, we've set the tiered structure for costs such that based on the current usage of Axis, we will be able to cover the costs for this system, not only to manage it and maintain it, but also to refresh it. Because one of the real problems with large systems like this is that, well, you buy it and it's a great shiny new toy and you use it, and in 5 or 6 years, it's 3 or 4 generations behind what you can buy on the market. So actually factored into the budget is an accumulation of funds where we will be replacing 1/4 of the system every year. Now, you could do that by trying to buy new stuff every year and incorporate it, but technology goes in jumps, in quantum leaps. And so the typical thing one does is you kind of bank that money each year that you are collecting, and then after 5 or 6 years or 4 years, you spend that money to buy a new system that people can then migrate to. All right? So the goal is to keep this thing refreshed so that it's always a state-of-the-art 21st century high-performance computing system. To your initial question, do we need other people to get involved with it? We probably could maintain it with just the natural scientists using it, but that seems, as I said earlier, every discipline now is trying to analyze huge amounts of data. And so this stuff will allow us to do really high, intense computations, which is usually comes from simulations, but also be able to do very large amounts of big data processing. And so it's a core facility for the whole university. And if I've got an English professor, or I've got a business professor, or a sociology professor that really needs, so a sociology professor wants to analyze Twitter data. All right, well, Twitter data, there's terabytes of Twitter data out there. And so we can help them. I mean, this will allow them to do that, and allow them to do that on campus. A lot of people, and I won't say a lot of people, but some people on campus like to use, you know, they go to something like Amazon Web Services and buy the compute time there. The problem is, if they've got a large amount of data to be processed, that data has to be moved through the network to Amazon so they can process it. And currently, we don't charge them for the networking charges that the university incurs to move all that data. Much better, they get the data in here, and then we do everything inside, and it's going to be a whole lot cheaper.
Are there other,
I guess in previous meetings, we've heard whether it's a dream or a whole statewide system, connecting Oregon State and OHSU, and I think TAP is what, $40 million or some pretty large number. And I guess the question is that a reasonable expectation long term? And secondly, how does your planning here fold into that if that were to take place?
Well, every core facility has to have part of its business plan how it would cope with external use. So the external use falls into two categories. Other academics that want to use it, and that also falls into two categories: academics that are actively collaborating with the PI here on campus, or just an academic at XYZ University that would like to use our facility. And we have to charge reasonable amounts for that. The other major category is if commercial business users want to use it. Now, we have rules from the federal government that tell us what kind of tariffs we have to charge for that use. We can't be undercutting Amazon or any other supplier of supercomputing power. So that's part of the business plan, how we cope with that. In terms of how we would integrate with OSU and OHSU and PSU, and if the other smaller universities want to get involved, a lot of that depends. We have to go back to our networking infrastructure picture, because we've got to upgrade the interconnectivity between the universities so that the data can flow at reasonable rates to get to wherever the HPC computational power is. Now, at the moment, OHSU has their own supercomputer cluster. We've got ours. I don't know if OSU does. I mean, my charge was not to worry about those other guys, was figure out how to do this. It's possible to try and integrate these, but it's as much a political problem as it is a technical problem. And, basically, I figured we crossed that, well, the fact will cross that bridge when they come to it, okay? But the goal here is, when we're trying to compete for these really top-notch scientists or whoever we're trying to hire as part of a cluster hire, that our computing facilities, both the networking and the supercomputing facilities, are not an issue, that we are, just as good as anybody else, if not better.
can I just, Brad, do you want to add anything to relative to that question?
So we have a proposal in front of the President's Council at the moment. It's a $10 million ask to the state to help us with high-speed interconnectivity between the four major research universities: OHSU, PSU, OSU, and U of O. That's working its way through the system. I believe that's an ask that will go to the state chief information officer to be folded into the state system rather than going through the hack. That's still up in the air. But that is an important piece of this that will allow us to have the high-speed interconnectivity between the four research universities, so that, for example, scientists at OSU would be able to utilize our HPC here. We would, on occasion, be able to use the HPC facilities at OHSU. I think it's an important part of building out a state system. Also, we have a policy in my office, which I set, which is that when we have a core research facility and we are selling services to other public universities or colleges in the state, we charge our internal rates to those. So the rate structure that we are setting for our HPC, we would extend that rate structure to OSU, OHSU, PSU. And it's a very affordable rate structure.
Terrific. I hate to say this, but we have to cut off this session. I think this has been terrific. Are there any other questions or any other comments, Chris or Joe, you want to make? Or
No, I think we probably ought to go on just to what, looking ahead, what
okay, let's do that.
And I'll wrap it up real quickly. Actually, the topic we were talking about, that's where I'm going next Monday to meet with the other CIOs on the cyber collaboration. Looking ahead, report and recommendations from Harvey. This is what you guys should be hearing about next time we're meeting. We also give you an update on our workflow project, an update on Allen Hall data center and data consolidation, and a timeline, an update for the general infrastructure plan, and what's not jumped there also, an update on where they are on the CIO search. And that should bring us close. I appreciate everybody's support, and we do have a good team here, and things have come together very nicely in a matter of 90 days.
Perfect. And we have asked, I'm sorry, did I hear, Connie, did you have a?
So thank you. Thank you.
Oh, okay. We have invited and asked this group to meet with us each time we have a board meeting. We've clearly assigned a high importance to it. We really appreciate it. Sounds like great progress is being made. Yeah, Joe, go ahead.
I just wanted to say one thing. I'm really impressed with Chris because he came into a really sticky situation, and I've just been amazed at the way he's been able to drive these things through. So I really want to express my gratitude because it was not an easy job he landed in, and I think he's done an excellent job. The progress that we're making on all these other areas is very, very good.
Wonderful.
Oh,
It's
thank you.
wonderful. And
Appreciate
I think for those of us on the board, I know we have lots of questions. I think this would be a good place for us to jot down our questions, and before we meet next time, we can give them some ideas of areas that are of particular interest. And Melanie's here, and I know she has been playing a key role in this process, so thank you, Melanie. Okay, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Terrific, thank you. Okay, Angela tells me we do have minutes from December that we have and we need to approve. And, I'm sorry?
I'm submitting my live.
Yeah. It was a slight misrepresentation by the secretary, but are there any comments or questions, or if not, is there a motion to approve those is there a second? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. We're going to, unless there is another question, we're going to adjourn this committee meeting and start the next one. We're all ready to go on that? Okay, so we're going to move to the Finance and Facilities Committee now.
Call that meeting to order, and with that, we should do a roll call.
I'm going to do a gavel.
Okay.
You can pass it. And I'm going to let these two committee members get to the table. Unless people feel compelled to move around. Okay. Okay, ready?
Okay.
Peter Bragdon.
Here.
Andrew Polis.
Here.
Susan Gary. Here. Joe Gagne.
Here.
Ross Carey.
Here.
President Schill.
Here.
Your committee is present.
Okay, the agenda, we have a few action items. The first item is the naming of certain university facilities. We have a couple major facility projects that are in planning stages right now. The projects have already, the approval for the funding of the projects have already been taken, but the actual assigning of names is something that is recommended by the president, and we have to act on that. So for those, we've got two projects. One is the building of a new facility for the Oregon Bach Festival. And a lot of the funding for that came from a very generous donation from Andy and Fizz Berwick. And for that, Janelle McCoy is going to come. Janelle is the executive director of the Oregon Bach Festival, and talk about the facility and the proposal from the welcome.
Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here, especially since we're about 2 weeks from opening our Bach Festival for this summer. Some of you, or all of you actually, know about the Oregon Bach Festival, which is truly one of these world-class music festivals, which without peer, in my opinion. I'm a little biased, but not too far off. And you know, it's a great pleasure for us to be doing this from the University of Oregon campus. This will be our 47th season this summer, and for all these years, we've actually been a roving band of musicians on campus. We've not had a permanent home here on campus. You know, our first years, we started as a project out of the School of Music with a budget that's about 1/100th of the size of where we are today. So when the opportunity arose for us to have a permanent home, this really is a game changer for the festival. You know, we do programming for about 18 days out of the year currently, and that's